Hi Vandana, good afternoon. Am I audible to you? Yeah, am I audible to all of you? People who can hear me, am I audible? Please text in the comment box and tell me if you can hear me properly. Hi Pratik, good afternoon. So here we are. Good afternoon, all of you, and we are going to have fun today. And this happens to be Grammar Thursday, as you can see, and we are going to talk about eclectic reading. And I will try to make this session as interesting as possible for you people. My name is Pradip Sengupta, and this happens to be my very first YouTube session with you all. So if you like the session, of course, your appreciation and your likes will help me come up with many such videos subsequently. If you like the session, please press the like button, comment, and share with your friends who all are preparing for MBA, and subscribe to BYJU'S Exam Prep for many more exciting videos. So talking about myself, I have been helping students across India to ace exams like CAT, NMAT, ZAT, and many other coveted exams. Hi Pratik, how are you? Hi Rakshit. Good to see you all. I hope I am audible clearly. I have been asking too many times because I don't know आपको मेरी आवाज आ रही कि नहीं आ रही है. So let us talk about eclectic reading. And I will start from the basics so that you understand exactly what today's session is going to be like and how the session will pan out. Eclectic, as the word suggests, eclectic means variety. Hi, VM. I'm sorry. I don't know your full name, buddy, but nevertheless, hello. I hope you're doing good. So, eclectic reading is about giving yourself an opportunity to divulge into, to get involved into a variety of reading practice, because CAT is going to be full of variety. And there is a proverb which says variety is the spice of life. Bina spice ke khana bhi acha nahi lagta. So it is life. So you need variety in life, and of course you need variety in your CAT reading style as well. So you have to be more eclectic in nature, right? So as you can see, the definition of eclectic, it means deriving idea from broad and diverse sources. So what does eclectic reading help you in? It helps you to have a wide range of perspective on different topics, on different matter. Your perspective becomes broad, your opinion, you have to broaden your horizon. That's the most important thing, right? Broadening horizon helps you get exposed to. Anandu Vishwanath, hi sir, he writes, hi sir, I'm hiring you back Anandu, welcome on board on BYJU'S Exam Prep, welcome on board with us. Extensive reading, extensive approach to reading help you understand the reading pattern in perspective, and it makes your viewpoint pretty comprehensive. So wide viewpoint, broader perspective, extensive opinion, and comprehensive approach, this is all inclusive, and that's what eclectic reading is all about. Okay, moving on. So what are the benefits of eclectic reading? As you can see, the picture says it all. It stretches your imagination and it builds perspective. Your outlook becomes broadened. It is broadened it empowers your knowledge, because it is important to have a diverse knowledge base to crack the different RC topics that CAT has in kitty every year for you people. And this year it is going to be IIM Ahmedabad constructing your CAT paper. So it is important that you are absolutely ready to tackle IIM Ahmedabad, and the RCs are going to be really interesting. I will not say it is going to be tough, but yes, it is going to be tricky, and you can ace the trick, you can see through the trick if at all you understand what all the passages are going to be like. Okay, it exposes you, it opens you up to a variety of reading styles, it improves your vocabulary. Okay, hi Aditya, I hope you're doing good. So welcome on board. It helps you overall improve your reading and helps you have a better perspective and better grasp on your reading. So diverse reading habit does help, and again it should be eclectic. Why I am telling you this? Because when it comes to CAT, why do I tell my students to have diversity in reading? Because if you see the CAT passages in 2019 and 20, some of the passages were taken from diverse sources. For example, Eclectic is one of the sources. Smithsonian is again a very, very important source to fall back upon as far as your reading is concerned. Philosophical topics, economy and business, art and culture, science and technology, business and industry, you name it and CAT has it for you. And that is the reason it is important to make your reading more diverse and more opened. Reading should not be bland and non-committal. होता क्या है कि जब हम एक तरीके की चीजें पढ़ते हैं, so you have a narrowed perspective. Your reading must be spicy, your reading must be absolutely extensive. So remember, you should be able to spend more time on studying different subjects. People from arts, they might, they always come and tell me, sir, I don't understand science. It is not about understanding science and the jargons of science. It is ideally the language that matters. So you have to understand what the language has to tell you, what the language implies to you, and what you infer out of the language. That is one of the most important things which you must keep in mind. Ideally, philosophical topics were definitely on the trickier side in CAT 19, but then we had topics from economy, we had topics from arts in 2020, so it was a mixed bag. CAT 19 was quite on the trickier side as far as the RCs were concerned, but CAT 20, some of the topics were very, very easy, some of the passages were quite easy to comprehend and decipher. Virat asks me what one should do. Just a second, Virat. Can you? Okay, I am there on another screen with you people. Virat writes, what should I do? Get going with your reading. That's the only tip I can give you at this point of time. Jitna ho sakta hai, padhai pe dhyan do. If reading bores you, then there is nothing much one can do, right? And without reading, RCs cannot be deciphered. You have to get into the habit of reading, okay? And you might have noticed that genres have increased in CAT. It is not just philosophy, it is not just art. We have been talking about modern history, we have been talking about world history, we have been talking about geography extensively, we have been talking about conservation. So my mantra to you would be, कोई भी टॉपिक तुम्हारे हाथ में आता है उसको पढ़ने की कोशिश करो. Okay, read anything and everything under the sun. Yes, read anything and everything under the sun, because that is how you develop a taste for reading. That is how you develop, your taste for grabbing more information. All right. Aditya, I also hope to help you in every possible way. We are friends, and I would like to help you all understand the nuances of CAT VARC. I hope we are going to have fun in the due course of time. Kafi maze karne wale hain, so don't worry. We at BYJU'S are known for having fun along with studies. So don't you worry, we are going to do the proper hand holding that is required. All right, so we talked about science and technology, we talked about arts, we talked about economy, we talked about business, we talked about philosophy. Okay, now what else eclectic reading helps you in? Remember, it prepares you for reading comprehension. Definitely, reading comes first. Reading must precede solving RC passages. So first of all, basics should be in place. Develop a taste for reading. कुछ भी पढ़ो. Anything that helps you understand. What one should do for CAT 21, solve more mocks. That's the only mantra I can give you. We are just a couple of days away from the D-Day. So the idea is to solve as many passages as possible. Virat, it is important. Oh, you are Virat Kohli. All right. Okay. So welcome on board with us, Virat. What are you doing? IPL is there and you are not there with our team. Anyways, welcome on board. So, जैसा कि मैं कह रहा था, mocks are the heart and soul of CAT. It is important and you just cannot ignore the mocks. Probably that is the most important thing that you can do right now. 11th hour, do not try to do anything new. कुछ भी नया करने की जरूरत नहीं है. Chill करो, आराम से आगे बढ़ो, right? But mocks लेते रहो. It is important to write mocks. Get into the habit of solving 3 to 4 passages a day if you really want to ace RCs. But fundamentally speaking, essentially, it is important that you start reading, develop a taste and inclination for reading. You must have a penchant for reading. Charity begins at home, so does reading. So get into the habit of reading. Also, it empowers you to have your reasoning in perspective, in place. आपकी critical reasoning को, आपके सोचने की ताकत को ये बढ़ाएगा. It is going to help you have a paradigm shift in your reading habit. So the more you read, the better you grow. Okay, Virat, so the mantra is to get going with mocks. Start solving more mocks, dear. That is the most important thing you can do at this point of time. Okay, and post your CAT. When you finally appear for the WAT, for IIMs or the group discussions or the PIs, reading helps you a lot because it enriches your content, right? And we are known by the content that we have, right? Reading makes you more cerebral, right? It is important that you get into the habit of reading, spend at least 25 to 30 minutes every day into reading, right? And read different topics from different books. I will talk about some of the sources about some of the books that you must, buy or you must have in order to read more diverse topics. All right. So with that being said, let me take you to one passage on philosophy, because in CAT, in RC's, philosophies are of utmost importance. The topics on philosophical issues are of utmost importance. This is a very short passage. Just the idea is to get the tempo going and make you understand how reading should be done. All right. So here we go. There's a passage in philosophy, right? I will give you 1 minute to read the passage and then we will try to solve the passage together. All right. So in a minute's time, try to read the passage. Okay, so the time is up. I hope you people have successfully finished reading this passage. It is relatively a small passage, a sample passage based on philosophy. Now let us try to understand the passage. I will read the passage for you and इसको साथ में करने की कोशिश करेंगे. So are we all set? शुरू कर सकते हैं? All right, let's get going. It begins with the term abiogenesis. Okay, it says abiogenesis is, in its most general sense, the generation of life from non-living matter. All right. Today, the term is primarily used to refer to theories about the chemical origin of life, such as from a primordial seed. Earlier, notions of abiogenesis, now more commonly known as spontaneous generation, held that living organisms are generated by decaying organic substances. Example, the mice spontaneously appeared in stored grain, or maggot spontaneously appear in meat. That idea, which has long been known to be incorrect, will be called Aristotelian Abiogenesis. Second paragraph. What does it say? It says, according to Aristotle, it was readily observable truths that aphids arise from the dew which falls on plants, fleas from putrid matter, mice from dirty hay, and so forth. Such was the prestige of the ancient Greek philosophers in general, that of Aristotle in particular, that this was accepted without question until the 17th century. One of the first to question this was Sir Thomas Browne in his Pseudoxia Epidemica, subtitled Inquiries into Very Many Received Tenets and Commonly Presumed Truths of 1646, an attack on false beliefs and vulgar errors. So if you were to rate this passage, the passage being easy, moderate, or difficult, how would you look at this passage? We will do the questions together. Don't worry about the question. मैं समझाता भी चलूंगा आपको एक लाइन, so that आपको पर्सपेक्टिव समझ में आ जाए. So पहले तो ये बताओ कि क्या ये समझ में आया आपको? Was it easy enough for you to understand? You can text in the comment box if you want to. Easy था कि moderate था कि difficult था, आपको क्या लग रहा है? What kind of a passage is it? How would you rate it? Okay, difficult, Vicky. All right. Yes, it is from biology. Kind of. It has the background, but more importantly, it is it belongs to the philosophy genre, right? Let us understand. Look at the question. Simran, the language is very tough. Difficult? Okay, let us see. Once you have this kind of passage coming, right? Once you witness this kind of passage, what do you do? What is the way out? There is something which I call EI whole square. E means elimination and I stands for information and inference. All right. So over here, let us understand. What is abiogenesis? Don't try to read the passage. Okay. Now let's skim and scan and look for information. Look for information. Information which is relevant to this question. Okay. The question is interesting. Please focus on the question. The question says, all of the following can be inferred. Look at the word inferred. Iska matlab, it is an inference based question, yes or no? Right? So first, battle one, we have understood that this passage is based on inference. Okay? And what do we have to infer? We have to infer this gentleman's attitude towards Greek knowledge. Towards Greek knowledge. Okay? What was this man's attitude towards Greek knowledge? And in order to understand the question, we have to go back to the passage. The passage says, what is abiogenesis? Abiogenesis is what? The generation of life from living matter. Now we have understood what is abiogenesis, the generation of life from living matter. This is information 1. Okay. Today, the term is primarily used. Which term am I talking about? Abiogenesis. How do we use this term? To refer to theories about chemical origin of life. So abiogenesis is about generation of life. Abiogenesis is about chemical origin of life. And such as from a primordial sea, life sprouted from sea, universe sprouted from Big Bang. Okay, so we know that abiogenesis talks about life, generation of life, chemical origin of life. So ये दोनों idea हमें clear हो गया. Earlier notions, what are notions? Notions means ideas. Okay, earlier notions of abiogenesis, now more commonly known as spontaneous generation, held that living organisms are generated by decaying organic substances. पहले जो notions थे, पहले जो ideas थे, उन ideas में important point क्या था? The important point was living organisms are generated from decaying organic substances. The things which are decaying, the things which are rotting, life sprouts from decaying matter. That was the idea. Correct or incorrect? That is what the passage is not going to tell you right now. And they have given you some example, which means the passage is moving from main idea to supporting idea, because you have an example over here. The mice spontaneously appeared in stored grains. Achanak, you see chuhe, mice coming in, appearing in stored grain, or maggots are insects, spontaneously, instinctively appear in meat, naturally appearing in meat. Meat ko khula rakh denge to keede pad jayenge. You might have seen it. So over here you are talking about maggots spontaneously appearing in meat, mice spontaneously appearing in stored grain. So they are coming from nowhere. So don't you think this is what abiogenesis is all about? Vicky says, is the answer C? I'm coming to the answer, Vicky. Let us see. So is the first passage clear to you? Now this idea, what idea? The idea of abiogenesis, which has long been known to be incorrect, will be called Aristotelian abiogenesis. This idea probably is incorrect, and they have termed it as Aristotelian abiogenesis. This entire idea, the idea that you find in these lines, they say that these ideas are called Aristotelian abiogenesis. All right. Now, moving on further into the passage, Aristotelian abiogenesis. Now, what is Aristotelian abiogenesis? Look at the second passage. It starts like this. According to Aristotle. Now, what does Aristotle say? What does he say? Now, Aristotle was a Greek philosopher. And what is the passage? Passage is about Greek knowledge. Aristotle, who was a Greek philosopher, what does he say? He says it was readily observable truths that aphids arise from the dew which falls on the plants. From the dews that falls on the plants, aphids emerge from those dews. Now, what are aphids? Aphids are insects, okay? And they automatically, they suddenly appear, कहीं से भी आ जाते हैं, अचानक से आ जाते हैं, ड्यू से आगे बाहर, अचानक आ गए, लाइफ फॉर्म हो गया, एबियोजेनेसिस. किसने बोला? एरिस्टोटल ने बोला. लेट्स मूव अहेड. Fleas from putrid matter, and fleas, again insects, they come from putrid matter. Putrid is something which is very bad, infected and unpleasant, right? वहां से fleas आ गए. All right. Mice from dirty hay, again mice coming out from dirty hay, and so on and so forth. Such was the prestige of ancient Greek philosophers. यहाँ ध्यान देना, right? Such was the prestige. और ये जो Greek philosophers थे, इनकी prestige इतनी ज़्यादा थी. They were revered actually. They were worshipped, right? And such was the prestige of Greek philosophers in general, and of course of Aristotle in particular, that this was accepted without question until 17th century. Whatever Aristotle said, okay, the philosophy, okay, was accepted until 17th century. Some change happened right after 17th century. Until 17th century, whatever Aristotle said was accepted, as we have seen in the passage. But there is something happened right after the 17th century. What happened? One of the first to question this was Sir Thomas Browne. We have a gentleman over here. His name is Thomas Browne, and he challenged Aristotle's theory. And he wrote a book. The name of the book was Pseudoxia Epidemica. And what was this book all about? Inquiries into very many received tenets. Tenets means beliefs or principles. And commonly presumed truths of 1646. Something which was presumed but may not be true. People who believed in the Greek philosophy until 17th century, and Thomas Browne comes from somewhere and he challenges the Aristotelian theory. Okay, and this book of Sir Thomas Browne was seen as an attack on the false beliefs and vulgar errors. If Sir Thomas Browne is attacking Greek philosophy and Aristotelian theory, then what is Sir Thomas Browne's attitude towards Greek philosophy? Is he skeptical? Skeptical means what? Afraid of something, right? Doubtful? Is he doubtful? Yes, he doubts the Greek philosophy. So skeptical is something which defines the attitude of Sir Thomas Browne. Is he questioning the Greek philosophy? Yes, he is questioning the Greek philosophy, of course. Otherwise, why would he attack? Right? Irreverent. What is irreverent? Irreverent means when you do not see things with respect, when you don't give importance to things, you don't revere it. Revere comes from worship. So irreverent, not worshipping, not taking things seriously. So is he taking Greek philosophy seriously? No. What is acquiescent? Okay, VM, you are saying D. Acquiescent. What is acquiescent? Can anybody tell me what is acquiescent? Acquiescent means when you actually accept something without much of an effort. When you accept something without protest, right? You do what someone else wants you to do, which means you are forced to believe. So if Sir Thomas Browne was forced to believe the theory of abiogenesis, he would not have attacked it. So definitely he is not acquiescent. Does he believe in Greek philosophy? He does not believe in Greek philosophy. So what is the question? All of the following can be inferred as describing Sir Thomas Browne's attitude towards Greek knowledge, except all these hold true. All these hold true except one, acquiescent. So D is the answer. Quite easily done. Okay, D was the answer, right? So this was a passage based on inference. Yes, Vicky, accept the conditions without compliance. That's what Vicky says, and you are absolutely right. So can we now say that D should be the answer? If you look at the question, all of the following can be inferred as describing Sir Thomas Browne's attitude towards ancient Greek knowledge, except all are true except. So you have to find out the odd man out. What is the odd man out? D is the odd man out, hence D is your answer. So what have we learned today? We have learned how to develop connect between two thought processes. It was a passage based on philosophy. The first passage talks about abiogenesis. The second passage talks about Aristotle's view towards abiogenesis. And then it also talks about how Thomas Brown attacks the concept of abiogenesis, and he does not believe it. He writes a book on it, and hence that drives us to the option, that takes us to the option which is D, and D should be the option over here. Okay. So is the first passage understood? This was one passage which I wanted to discuss with you, just to help you understand how to tackle passages on philosophy. Of course, the passages are not going to be this small in size or minuscule in size. You will get longer, bigger passages. But if your basics are in place, you will not have any problem understanding the passage, understanding the perspective, having the rationale in your mind absolutely clear, and then driving home the right answer. I hope this passage is understood by one and all. Now, do you think it is difficult? Simran, you said it was difficult. Now, do you think it is difficult? Did you understand? Okay. So can we now move to our next passage for the day? Here we go. This is a passage on business, right? I will not explain the passage right now. I want you to read the passage. Take your time, right? And once you finish reading the first slide, the content, let me know so that I can change the slide. This passage is a bit longer. Okay, Anadu Vishwanath, you understood the passage. Very good. That's a very good sign. Simran, I hope the passage is clear to you. Okay, that's wonderful. Okay, please read on. This is an example passage on business. Okay, can we move on to the next slide? Let's move on to the next slide. Okay, let me take you to the next slide quickly. I hope you have finished reading the passage. Yes? Simran says meaning of stratagem. Stratagem means tricks and plans. Simran, tricks and plans. कोई tricks है, कोई plan है. That is stratagem. Okay. Let us now go back to the beginning of the passage. Now, if you compare the first passage with that of this one, you will find that this passage was comparatively soothing to the eyes and brain. You could read the passage and understood what actually pans out in the passage, the happenings, the events and the incidents. It was not actually very difficult, but yes, largely it was on the analytical side. Okay, so let us now understand what the passage has to tell us. एक साथ करेंगे. Ready? Alright. It begins like this. The recent wave of mergers and airline failures has made the industry more concentrated at the national level than it was before deregulation. The trend continues to threatens to do so. The trend continues or threatens to do so. What kind of trend? The failures of the airline business being bad, mergers, the threat of mergers happening, big companies gobbling up the smaller ones. With the failure of Eastern Airlines, Midway and Pan American, and the bankruptcy of carriers such as Continental, America West and TWA, pricing may well become less competitive in future. So the first passage emphasizes on pricing. And what are we talking about? We're talking about the airline industry. Okay, many airlines fail ho gaye, band ho gaye, most of them became, a few of them became bankrupt. So the situation is not very pink and rosy. Okay, there is reason to be worried about as far as the airline industry is concerned. Okay, we are talking about the recent wave of mergers and airline failures has made the industry more concentrated. Power vested in the hands of the few. Okay, and at the national level than it was before deregulation. Before deregulation, regulation was the time when the government had the say and the authority, but after deregulation, the airlines could do anything they wanted to do. It became, a competitive market with least of government interjection and interference. That was deregulation. Second paragraph. In this, as in all other unregulated industries, there is always the possibility of anti-competitive behavior. मतलब जो इंडस्ट्री अनरेगुलेटेड है उसमें पॉसिबिलिटी है किस बात की, एंटी कॉम्पिटिटिव बिहेवियर की. we'll understand it subsequently. That is why we have antitrust laws. And what is the significance of this antitrust law? Let's see. The concentration of the industry reflects, it shows, what does it show? In part, the failure of the Department of Transportation to disallow even one merger of direct competitors. The Department of Transportation have not been able to prevent mergers, okay? Which means mergers are bad for airline industry, right? New players will not be able to come, and the competition will end, and many new airlines or the startups, they will perish. And then it says also, some of the largest airlines have, at least in the past, used their computerized reservation system to handicap the smaller competitors. What have the largest airlines they have done? They have handicapped the smaller competitors. How? By using their computerized reservation system. Then what happened? Frequent flyer programs, operating agreements, mergers with regional feeder airlines, and deeply discounted discriminatory fares have all put smaller competitors at severe disadvantage. Now, what is the problem with these smaller competitors? Right? The bigger players, they have gone into mergers, right? They have made the tickets and the fares largely smaller, largely they have minimized the fares, and that is why it has become discriminatory, and that is affecting the smaller competitors in the business, okay, and contributed to the demise of many of them. Demise means death. Many of the smaller competitors have perished because of these reasons. These potentially anti-competitive stratagems, one of you asked me this question, stratagem means tricks. These anti-competitive stratagems were scarcer before deregulation. So before deregulation, anti-competitive stratagems were lesser. Now they are more in number, and that is having a telling effect on the airline industry. And these, the author says, were grossly unnecessary. There was no need of these anti-competitive tricks. The instances, the events and the examples of sharply increased price discrimination that deregulation has made possible are both competitive and monopolistic in phenomena. Now, understand the author's point of view. He talks about sharp increase in price discrimination. And what is their nature? It is competitive, of course, which is not bad, but they're monopolistic in nature. This sounds dangerous, right? The market is no longer perfectly competitive. They are moving towards monopolistic regime, all right? They reflect intense competition for the travelers, most likely to be attracted by price differences among competitors. Of course, lesser the price, the flyers will be attracted to them, and the bigger players can afford them because they're deep-pocketed. The smaller players will either have to go by the rules, or they will get into the mergers, they will lose their identity, or they will perish from the market. All right? Talking about the discrimination, let's continue talking about this discrimination against the smaller players. Also reflects the exercise of monopoly power, which the author should be deadly against. Look at the tone. He does not like monopolistic powers. No longer curbed by direct price regulation. All right. The increasing sophistication with which the leading carriers practice what industry euphemistically calls yield management enables them to take full advantage of the monopoly power. Now, these big companies, they're becoming sophisticated. right? They are empowered with technology, and these practices, the bigger industries, they call them yield management euphemistically. What is euphemistically? Euphemistically means when you say unpleasant things in a pleasant way because you don't want to sound harsh or unpleasant. That is euphemism. That is euphemistically. It's a figure of speech. Okay? कुछ खराब चीजों को अच्छे तरीके से कह देना. That is euphemistically speaking. And what do they do in turn? They enable them to take full advantage. They enable them to take full advantage of that monopoly power, particularly in the unrestricted full fares paid by about 10% of the travelers. See, 10% of the travelers, they are paying full fares. Discounts are not available. This is a clear example of some of the players enjoying monopoly in the business. I hope you are understanding the passage. The continuing concentration of the industry threatens to extend that exploitation to an increasing proportion. This reconcentration, which was not there before deregulation, that is threatening the airlines industry to an increasing proportion of the flying public in the future. Now, this is the problem which the author cites about the airline industry. Now, in the next couple of passages, he says something else. Now, he says there are three possible ways in which the government might respond to this dilemma. What is the dilemma? We have spoken about the dilemma in the previous paragraphs. Now, the author wants the government to react and take steps. Okay, and he gives three options. The first option, what is the first option? It could do nothing. Now, this is sarcasm, right? Chupchap sarkar baithegi aur kuch nahi karegi. It could do nothing. The airline industry is far more competitive than it was. Now, this is one fact which is absolutely important for you to understand. The airline industry has never been so competitive as it is now. The benefits of competition have been widely distributed, and industry profits have been lower on average since the regulation. Under these circumstances, under the circumstances discussed in this paragraph, it would be reasonable to conclude that no remedy was required. Either you talk about the government intervention being minimal or no government intervention at all. Okay, the government becomes a mute spectator and it lets things happening the way it has been happening. Or look at the second step. The government could actively attempt to make markets more competitive. Now the government swings into action as per the author. This is what the government can do as an option. Okay, by assuming responsibilities that it has neglected. There are some of the responsibilities according to the author which the government has neglected all this while. It could vigorously enforce the antitrust laws. This is one way, enforcing the antitrust laws. It could also remove barriers to competition. The government can remove what? Barriers to competition. How? By expanding airport capacity enough to allow new competitors to operate on routes, by dissolving preferential arrangements between hub dominating carriers and their hub airports. Okay, hub dominating carriers are those carriers that carry passengers from different destinations within one country and beyond. Hub airports are those airports where carriers can land from different countries or from different places within a country and give the passengers a connecting flight to fly to a different destination within a country or abroad. Okay, so the preference was given to the bigger players, but with the government swinging into action, now smaller players, small companies also can have access to these airports. This is what the government can do. Moving barriers to competition. That's what it says, moving barriers to competition. Okay, and above all what? By allowing foreign airlines to compete for domestic traffic, either directly or by investing in American carriers. Now you are making the bigger airlines, the foreign airlines, compete for the domestic traffic also, which means you are bringing back the sense of competition, which earlier on, which till now is monopolistic in nature. अब तक तो monopoly है. So if you invite these foreign airlines to compete in the domestic traffic, what will happen? You are getting the competition back. So even the smaller players, they are also ready to earn their fair pie. And what is the third point? Where restoration of more effective competition proves feasible. Restoring competition. Okay? Getting back competition. Price ceilings could be reimposed, right? It should not be left at the mercy of the monopolistic bigger players, right? They should not be able to decide the pricing. The government should come into the picture to discuss and take steps to have proper ceilings on the pricing. To protect whom? The travelers, subject to monopolistic exploitation. Now over here, the author is talking about those travelers who are at the mercy of monopolistic exploitations. So, two steps. Either the government can sit back and watch, do nothing, or as it has been said, the government can swing into action and take some steps to check discrimination. Now look at the third paragraph. It says, my strong preference. Over here you will get, what is this? Author's attitude towards the passage. What is the main idea of the passage? What is the author's attitude? So this gives you the author's attitude. I hope it is clear to you. What is the author's attitude? My own strong preference. What does the author has to say? What does the author have to say about his strong preference? He says, with which most economists would probably agree. Very subtle way of saying that this is the opinion which he will stand by. And what is it? The second approach. Not only that, he is soliciting the acceptance of the economists as well. वो बाकी लोगों को भी अपने साथ लेके चल रहा है. With which most economists would probably agree. What is it? Second approach. What is the second approach? The government intervention. Alright? Once introduced, price controls have an almost irresistible tendency to breed further controls. Once you usher in price control, the other things will automatically be controlled. End of monopoly, or there will be a monopoly check. Okay, other things will be in control. It is a spiral effect. One thing affects the another. A cause and effect system always works. Because airlines could adjust to price ceilings by reducing quality, how will the airlines adjust to the price ceilings? Either by reducing quality. Price ceilings would have to be accompanied by regulations imposing minimum quality standards. So there is one thing called minimum quality standard which all the airline industry will have to abide by. It takes no imagination to see where that might lead. And once this price ceiling is imposed, of course, checking on the price is imposed and where that might lead the airlines to prohibitions of reductions in frequent flyer benefits, in scheduling, or in the frequency with which full fare paying customers are upgraded to first class, and to stipulations about the minimum quality of meals and maximum charges of headsets. These examples are not fanciful. What the author envisions over here, okay, the perks and the goodies being given to the passengers, these are not fanciful. These can be implemented. All of them were adopted under regulation. Before deregulation, it was adopted and still it can be done. But look at the last line. To prevent competitive evasions of governmentally set price floors. Author also does not want the government to set price floors, and very cunningly the author says we can prevent the full control of the government may not set the price floor. Of course, the author wants government's intervention, but the author does not want absolute control of the government over the airlines. I hope this passage was easy for you to understand. Simran says euphemistically. Yes, I just explained, Simran. Euphemistically means to say unpleasant things in the pleasant way. किसी भी खराब चीज को आपने अच्छी तरीके से बोल दिया. Yield management, euphemistically speaking. Okay, it is just like saying, right, somebody has failed in class 10. We are not using the word failed, we are using the word detained, stopped. So failed is negative, detained is somewhat positive. So euphemistically speaking, that's what it means. Now, having understood the passage, can we look at the questions? What does the question tell you? The question says, which of the following is the primary purpose of the passage? Let us read each and every option carefully. A says, to highlight the anti-competitive behavior that the concentration of the airline industry will face under deregulation. Is the passage only about deregulation? B says, to further the case of governmental regulation in the airline industry to curb the exploitive practices of large airlines in a deregulated environment. C says, to outline the potential problems that increasing concentration in the airline industry might cause and suggest a strategy to counter the same. D says, to present the highly discriminatory practices of large airlines in pushing smaller airlines out of the market. And E says, to present the advantages and disadvantages of a regulated airline industry vis-a-vis a regulated one. What do you think should be the option? Garvit says coming second best in a race. I did not understand this comment of yours, Garvit. Garvit, can you bit clarify what you wanted to ask? VM long one, retention of data is difficult. Yes, it is difficult. Yes, it is difficult, but again, focus is important. So when you go back to the passage, you will find that the passage primarily talked about the problems, and then the author talks about the steps, the corrective measures that one can take to face and mitigate these problems. Okay. 1A says to highlight the anti-competitive behavior that the concentration of the airline industry will face under deregulation. See, it is not just about deregulation. The author mentions the steps and strategies also. This passage, this option does not talk about the steps and strategies suggested by the author. So 1 is out of question. B talks about to further the case of governmental regulation in the airline industry to curb the exploitive practices of large airlines in a deregulated environment. It says to further the case of governmental regulation in airline industry. The author just suggested that the government should take necessary steps to check concentration which is there at the hands of on the part of the larger airlines, right? We are not talking about absolute regulation on the part of the government. So this is wrong information. We cannot buy this point. This is not what the passage suggests. So even B is out of question. I hope that answers the question, Vicky. It is not B. VM says C. Let us see. It says to outline what? To outline the potential problems that increasing concentration in the airline industry must cause and suggest, look at this word, and suggest a strategy to counter the same. Did we talk about the problems and the steps? We talked about the problems, we talked about the steps. So C could be the option, but we have to check the other two before we zero in on C. D says to present the highly discriminatory practices of large airlines in pushing smaller airlines out of market. It is not the objective of the passage to present the discriminatory practices. We have talked about the problems, we have talked about the steps. So the answer should be an inclusion of the problems and an inclusion of the steps as well. So D is one pronged, so D cannot be the option. Look at E. To present the advantages and disadvantages of a regulated airline. The passage was not just about regulated airline industry and vis-a-vis a regulated one. It is about something else. It should be deregulated. There's a small printing error. Okay. The answer, the best option is C. VMU got it right. Garvit, I'm sorry. The answer is C. To outline the potential problems and increasing concentration in the airline industry might cause and suggest a strategy to counter the same. So this is the answer for question number 1. Okay, can we look at the next question? Look at this question. It says, except what? The author mentions all the following as the reason why the government should intervene in the airline except. Read the question and read the options properly. The author mentions all the following as the reason. Okay, let's look at the options. A says the possibility that pricing in the airline industry might not be competitive in near future. This is a prediction. The possibility pricing might not be competitive. Is that what the author wants to mention? Is that the author wants to mention? B says large airlines employing potentially anti-competitive strategy. C says the threat of large companies using their monopoly power to exploit a large section of the flying public by giving them no option but to pay full fares to travel by air. D says airlines reducing quality of services offered, benefits of frequent flying and frequency of flights. E says smaller airline being driven out of business. What do you think should be the option? All the following have been mentioned by the author except, it says except. Okay, one option is not mentioned by the author at all, right? The answer over here, like look at E first of all, we'll go in the descending order, right? From the last to the first one, smaller airlines being driven out of the business. This is what the author talks about. Yes, he's frightened, he's skeptic about it, he's apprehensive about it. Airlines reducing quality of services offered, benefits of frequent flying and frequency of flights. He talks about it, but from the point of view of the consumers, and the consumers, the benefit which the consumers avail if the prices are checked, right? This is not what the author mentions as the reason why government should intervene. This is not the reason why the government should intervene. Okay, so we will keep this in check. C says the threat of large companies using their monopoly power to exploit a large section of the flying public. Of course, this threat looms large. He talks about this threat. Large airlines employing potentially anti-competitive strategies. This is what the passage is about. The author mentions it in the very first paragraph. A says, the possibility that the pricing in the airline industry might not be competitive in the near future. Yes, he talks about it if unless and until it is checked. All the points are being spoken by the author. They have been mentioned by the author, barring D. So D should be the answer. It is not about having the right answer or the wrong answer. In CAT, it is always the best answer. Remember that. And one of you spoke about retention. You see, in a longer passage, and that is why eclectic reading becomes very important. If we are in the habit of reading properly with focus, focus is something which everybody and anybody cannot afford. And you being a CAT aspirant, it is important for you to work on the focus. It is quite meditative in nature. So the moment you start reading and you expose yourself to a variety of reading, you will see focus and retention will never be a problem, right? Dawai kadvi hoti hai, lekin bukhar utarne ke liye you have to take that bitter pill, right? Even if you have to take it with a pinch of salt. So it is important to improve your retention, right? Please get into the habit of reading. I always tell my friends around that please get into the habit of reading, right? Please expose yourself to a variety of reading, and it is then you will be exposed to this bliss of retention. Retention will happen. You have to reprogram your mind, right? The subconscious and the conscious mind, both these will have to be reprogrammed in order to work on retention, work on focus, right? When you concentrate on one particular thing for an extended period of time, you get your focus back. It's all about practice. Okay? So longer passages, they do need retention, but then going back to basics is the only panacea. Please work on your reading habit. That is the one mantra which I wanted to give you today from this platform. I hope you have understood this passage, and this was not a difficult passage. Was it a difficult passage? No, it wasn't. But yes, it definitely demanded attention and focus. All right? Can we look at the next question, please? This is the last question. Which of the following best summarizes the author's view? Which of the following best summarizes the author's view? Which of the following best summarizes the author's view? Regarding what? With regards to current state of the airline industry. Read on, please. A says, deregulation has led to a monopolistic environment and the government has to intervene and enforce strict price ceilings. B says, the simultaneousness of mergers and the collapse of major airlines has led to a high degree of concentration which has to be tackled through governmental regulation. C says, the airline industry is getting increasingly concentrated, and before it becomes monopolistic, the government must intervene and make the market more competitive. D says, the government must ensure that large corporations do not exploit the flying public by charging them full fares. And E says, the rise in concentration in anti-competitive behavior has to be curbed before the airline industry becomes totally monopolistic. What's your take? Feroz says A, okay. Author's view regarding what? The current state of the airline industry. Don't you think the tone of the passage is a bit cautionary? It comes to you as a caution. VM says C. All right. Garvit says C. All right. Let us quickly look at the options. Deregulation has led to a monopolistic environment and the government has to intervene. Government has to intervene. It is pretty compelling on the part of the government. This is not what the author says. The author mentions government intervention as one of the steps. The first step being the government may not do anything at all, if you remember. Okay, retention, if you remember. So has to intervene. This is not what the author has to summarize the passage as. So A is out of question. You can eliminate A. The simultaneousness of mergers and the collapse of major airlines has led to a high degree of concentration, which has to be tackled through governmental regulation. Again, look at this, which has to be tackled through government regulation. Government's intervention is just an alternative. It is not the only way out. So B is out of question. C says the airline industry is getting increasingly concentrated, and before it becomes monopolistic, the government must intervene and make market more competitive. Make market more competitive is what the sum and substance of the author's summary. Right? The author's view. It summarizes the author's view. D says the government must ensure that large corporations do not exploit the flying public. Of course, it is understood, it is implicit, by charging them full fares. This is one point which is quite micro in nature. It cannot be the sum and substance of the summary. This is just one passing reference in the passage, but the passage is more than just charging the passengers full fares. It's about deregulation, it's about the problem of concentration, so on and so forth. So this is one area which is very micro in nature. So this cannot be the summary. Summary has to be very holistic in nature. Okay, the rise in concentration and anti-competitive behavior has to be curbed. The rise in concentration in anti-competitive behavior has to be curbed, understood, before the airline industry becomes totally monopolistic. No, between E and C. Now E is an apprehension, okay, but the author's point of view is to make the market more competitive and giving space to the smaller airlines to exist and earn. So the best option in this category would be C. Quite easily done. So that's how we are going to help ourselves, attempting questions. And eclectic reading is all about this. When you expose yourself to a variety of reading, you will be able to understand the subtle differences between the topics and the genres. And the more you read, the better are your chances of working on your retention and focus, and you will start getting your options right. With that being said, we are coming to the end of today's session. I hope you have liked the session today. Now this is our schedule for this week. That's how we are placed. You can take a screenshot of it if you want to, right? From Monday to Friday, this is how we look like. This is how we are placed this week. And we are going to launch, we have launched our crash course. Of course, CAT is in the offing. CAT is just a couple of days away. Just in case you want to improve your CAT score, you can enroll yourself into this program and get expert guidance. For queries, please feel free to call us on this number. Our counselors will be more than happy. Okay, Feroz, got you. I missed your comment. I'm so sorry. Right? You can enroll yourself to this program of ours. It's a complete course for CAT 22. The admissions are underway. You can enroll yourself immediately and start the classes. Right? The mocks have been extended till 14th of October. It is all India open mock. You can register yourself, and Try to take as many mocks as possible. Please test your preparation and see where you stand at the end of the day. For queries, call on this number and write into us at support@byju'sexamprep.com. Also, now we are launching our OMET program, the Other Management Entrance Test program, right? Classroom tutorial and classroom studies are available. CAT courses are there. You can, check the subscription link and you will get all the information that is necessary for you. Don't forget to press the bell icon to get notifications from BYJU'S Exam Prep. Right? Online classroom for CAT 21, it's a percentile booster course. You can enroll yourself, and there are courses available for new batches are available for CAT 22. Please see that you are enrolled. Let your friends know about us. If you like our channel, press the like button and please share this with your friends. Right? This is our intellectual capital, the wind beneath the wings of BYJU'S. These people are going to help you in every way possible to get a decent CAT percentile, right? So these faces don't need recognition. So they have been helping thousands of students across India, and they can help you as well. Okay, this is a passage. Vicky says this passage was from which year's CAT? I have taken this passage from a previous year, from the past CAT series only. I don't remember the year. I'll get back to you on this. Okay, I hope you like the passage. All right, now this is a bonanza coming up, right? You can avail flat 25% off. Use this code victory25 to avail the discount. Don't forget to like, comment and share. Subscribe to our channel. Follow us on Instagram. Don't forget to join us on Telegram. Okay? With that being said, that's a wrap from my side. See you on the other side. Thank you and take care.